You are watching the New American Media. Hello, America. Hello and happy Friday, everyone. Thank you very much for sticking around with us. This is the Unhappy Hour on the NewAmericanMedia.com. I am your host, Brian Engelman. Thank you very much for joining us. If you're listening live, do us a favor. Go ahead and like our Facebook page at The New American Media. And go ahead and follow us on Twitter. We're at American_media_. That's American_media_. If you're watching this after the fact on YouTube, thank you. Do us a favor, though. Click that little subscribe button because we put up new content every week. We're talking spirituality. We're talking sports. We're talking finance. We're talking politics. Anything you can imagine. We usually agree to disagree, but we want this mostly civil conversation here, so thank you very much for sticking around. We're going to be talking, this is an interesting show because the concept of the Unhappy Hour is that it's like a bar. It's Friday, end of a long week, and you go to a pub, you go to your local bar, you sit down, you have a beer, and you talk to people around you. Sometimes you're talking to the sports guy next to you, sometimes you're talking to the political guy next to you, or the economics guy, or the spiritual guy, and you just chit-chat, time to unwind, time to cut loose a little bit and relax. You never know what kind of conversation you're going to get. So today we are joined with one of my longtime friends from back in our undefeated high school football days, and definitely Ryan understands what it means to grow up, graduate in Ohio, move out to Los Angeles for a few years, and then consider moving back. Our life paths are very similarly intertwined. Perhaps the timelines are a little off, but Ryan Carlson will be joining us for today's program. I want to take a quick second to thank our sponsor for today. It's Three Black Cats Studio. Go ahead and take a look. If you want to help the NewAmericanMedia.com, help our sponsors. 3blackcats.storeenvy.com. That's the number 3blackcats.storeenvy.com. Tribal belly dance accessories, homemade herbal products, really cool earrings, hidden book boxes. Really cool hidden book boxes. You can put your remote, your car keys, your change, whatever else you want stored away from public eyes. Just take a look at the website. That's number 3blackcats.storeenvy.com. Ryan Carlson is our guest for today's program. Ryan has been with us before. Ryan, how are you, sir?
Doing good, Brian. Thanks for having me. I don't know, do I get to wish you a happy, unhappy hour? I'm not sure how that works.
A happy, unhappy hour. I like the double negative and then the triple negative, the unnegative. That's an interesting question. Happy, unhappy hour. Well, you get the concept. I guess in most of the major sports cities where you have the NBA, Major League Baseball, and football, they at least have something to talk about. Something went well recently in the past 3 decades or something. But in Cleveland or in Ohio, you don't really have any moment you can point to where it's like, hey, remember that great time when the Indians won that? Oh, no, they didn't. Hey, remember when LeBron brought home the... Oh, no. So, I don't know. Wish me a happy, unhappy hour, I suppose. Welcome to the bar. What would you like?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. I think the hot topic around our town at the moment happens to be the mention of the sale of the Browns to a minority owner in the Pittsburgh Steelers, our longtime rivals, although unfortunately a whole generation of fans doesn't know what that rivalry means since we haven't been very good.
Well, but I guess Michigan Wolverines, they don't understand what it was like to win. We've been smacking them around so often, so consistently lately. They kind of don't get it.
Yeah, what is it? Russell was 9-1 against him, which, by the way, I got to spend 10 minutes with him the other day. Was a very, very nice guy. But back to the Brown stuff. The rumor is that I guess it's a confirmed rumor that the Browns are in discussion with a group and led by the minority owner from the Pittsburgh Steelers to come on over here. And I think there were some fans that were concerned about, having one of our rivals, quote, own the team. And I gotta say, for me, I don't know that that's such a scary proposition because I can't imagine somebody would buy a team just to try to watch them tank. So whoever the guy is, even though he's going to be a big Steelers fan, from what I understand, that may be, but I can still envision him putting everything he has into making the Browns successful. And coming from a Browns fan, this is difficult to say, but the Steelers are such an extremely well-run organization. I certainly wouldn't mind swapping histories with them. Hopefully he's picked up a thing or two from the Rooney family, and will bring over those ideals that help make the Steelers franchise what it is, and hopefully some of that rubs off on the Browns.
No, that's a good point, and it's something I just got done having a conversation with Brandon. He was my co-host in Bowling Green for 3.5 years of college radio, and we do a segment called Strictly Browns on the Unhappy Hour. And I guess that's maybe what the umbrella of where this Unhappy Hour program is going to land. I think we'll probably put you in that program when we post this online. But we said the same thing. If you think back to it, the only ownership group in the entire NFL that stood up and said what was happening to the Browns going to Baltimore was wrong, that was the Rooney family. That was the Pittsburgh Steelers saying this was wrong. Everybody else supported it and said, hey, I want to be able to do this at the end of the day. And they said, no, this is not right how you're doing it. You want to expand a franchise? You give Baltimore an extended franchise later. This is wrong. I don't like what you're doing. So, yes, it's unfortunate. I don't like knowing that Pittsburgh has been so much far superior, at least over the past 10 years. 15 years, we certainly were really good in the late 80s with the Bernie Kosar-led teams. But, yeah, maybe some of that business acumen can come this way, and maybe we can solidify and start building a nice franchise. I mean, this guy, this owner, Jimmy Haslam, he's very successful in life. His family's very successful. He's very successful. It seems like everywhere he goes, he brings professionalism and results. And I just want results already. I want these Super Bowl championship trophies in Cleveland, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. But I think, it's going to be my only real concern would be, and I would hope that he would not come in here and do that, is to come in and try to shake up, the front office, especially the coaching staff, which is in its infancy. A lot of people were not happy with the way coaching got run last year, but there's finally a bunch of excitement about the Browns draft this year, the draft picks, that we're finally feeling better about the direction the team is headed in. Brad Childress came in as an offensive coordinator, which was a big source of contention for a lot of fans because it was too much on a new head coach's shoulders to be the OC and the head seat. So I think that would be a detriment if we had a new owner come in here and kind of shake things up. There's also some speculation that it may help move Mike Holmgren out sooner rather than later. He had certain promises and guarantees coming from Landy Lerner. Hopefully, Jim Haslam will, honor those agreements and not force him out. But considering his age and him kind of wanting to be out of football, who knows? But I would like to see our coaching staff stay in place. There's been some talk, I guess, that one of the possible people that was involved was the former president of the Eagles who left, and there was some speculation whether he could come in as Mike Holmgren's replacement or whether he may come in as part of the ownership team.
Well, what I like to say, and we talked about this, was, Brandon Weeden, at least my understanding of Brandon Weeden was he walked on to Oklahoma State. I didn't really know that. I just kind of heard about that. And it's just one of those situations where it's just give me a chance. Let me show you what I can do. And I've said the same thing about Colt McCoy. Well, you got to give him a running back, a right tackle, a wide receiver. You got to kind of shore up a few things. Maybe an offensive coordinator, maybe an off season to prepare, and give him a shot. Give him a shot to compete. And I think that's kind of what you're getting at least from the front office standpoint. Like, look, we have a team organized. I mean, how long did Bill Cowher have to have great regular seasons and flub out in the playoffs to finally get it right and to finally bring home? Sometimes it takes time to get better. Sometimes it takes time to get organized. And if you look at the resume of Holmgren, he's got a fantastic resume. The components are there, and he understands the Browns. I would like to give him a chance to see what we can do with the right players around him, because it's ultimately the players, not the coaches, deciding the outcomes of games,
I think because we're in that, everybody's in a win now kind of society, but what hurts the Browns even more is Cleveland's inability, as a city and as a franchise to deliver any kind of championship. I think the expectations are a lot higher of, wanting people to do things faster, and we get caught in a vicious cycle of, not being able to allow people enough time. However, I've, traveled most of the country, and the Browns fans in general are extremely knowledgeable football people, and I think everybody would be happy just to see that there's some improvement. One of the things that I try to remind myself was, I don't remember exactly how many years ago, but it was by the time Matt Stafford, may have been his rookie year, was on Detroit's team, and you had a great core of running backs. They had picked up some defensive pieces. They had, of course, all the receivers that they drafted, including Calvin Johnson. But you could sort of see there was they didn't have the playoff record yet, but you could see sparks. You could see that there was some talent there, and you kind of had this sense of like, oh wow, these guys are close to getting to that next level with a few more pieces. We've got a really tough schedule next year with the Browns, and I wouldn't be disappointed if our record ended up the same, as long as we had something to finally kind of hang our hats on, that like, okay, we're moving in the right direction. And we just haven't seen that for so long that there's no patience anymore, because everybody is just sick of not seeing anything. I mean, last year was actually a regression from the Mangini era, which was pretty hard to sink even lower.
Hard to do.
Pretty hard to do, but they found a way. I think we could hopefully see, if we see some improvements this year, I think the Browns fans would be patient.
Well, and it's something that it's a tough issue. At what point do you throw in the towel and say we need to go in a different direction? And certainly one of the things I've talked about on this program is that 4 years of a head coaching regime is enough time to know, either you're rebuilding and you have some excitement and you're watching sparks and you go, hey, this team is on. You can look at the trajectory going, they're moving in the right direction. They've got the right core players. They're going to be really good in a couple of years, or next year. They've gotten good this year, and they can be really good and downright scary next year. We haven't seen that in a while. Chris Palmer had 2 years, Butch Davis 3.5, Terry Robisky for half a year, Romeo Crennel had 4, Eric Mangini had 2, and then Pat Shurmur is about a year in. And one of the things I want to talk about is, in November we have a chance to pick a head coach for the nation of the United States of America. That's and it's interesting. Do we stick with this head coach for an 8-year term, or is 4 years enough to look around at the trends and projections and go, it's time to make a head coaching decision. We got to make a choice, and that might be that it's time to replace this head coach. And that's somewhere I want to go with this, Ryan. Let me ask you, because there's a couple sports things I would like to sneak in if we have time. How much time do we have you for today?
I have got maybe another 10 minutes.
Then let's get right into it, because I definitely wanted to put out there that maybe talk about the Indians a little bit, maybe talk about a few things, but maybe for another day, another time. Let me just ask then. Let's get to it. If head coaches barely get 4 years to prove what trajectory they're going to take a team, what are your thoughts on the upcoming election in 2012? Between you have two major candidates of Barack Obama, the Democrat, Mitt Romney, the Republican, and then there are other options, actually. You don't have to pick one of two. I don't know where that idea came from. But do you think 3.5 years is enough time to judge whether we're moving in the right direction, or it's time to change head coaches in the United States?
Well, I think that there's been enough time for, evaluation. I am not a big proponent of doing it right away. But at this point, we know the general philosophies, we know the general direction, and I think that we have to make a change. It was interesting. I got into a discussion the other day where somebody said they felt like everybody is being extremely hard on the current president and not giving him any breathing room only because he's an African American. And I really, 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 really had a tough time listening to that, because for me, I'm not evaluating it through the lens of racism. I'm sure that there are some who are. It just boils down to the fact that I just don't like what has been accomplished. or lack thereof, or the direction that, given the choices he would like to go, a few things that have bothered me is that when Congress doesn't do what he says, he passes all these crazy executive orders to just go ahead and act like a dictator. The other thing that, of course, you and I have spoken on in the past has been the Obamacare issues and how we feel about that. And for me personally, lately, it's been a lot of the attacks on religious liberty that I don't agree with. So,
well, I'm a little. I would say I'm a little. When you said, and then he goes and acts like a dictator, I was like, oh, okay, he said dictator. All right, he was finishing that thought. There was a second syllable to that. As you were saying, it made me chuckle, like, oh, okay. No, and you know, take a look at it, Ryan. To your friend that wants to bring it up like that, do you think Bush was treated harshly because he was Caucasian? I don't know. But do we care that Terry Robisky and Romeo Crennel were African American? Do we care that Eric Mangini and Chris Palmer were white? Do we? I don't care. I don't care what they worship. I don't care. I don't care what food they eat. I want results. I don't give a damn what you look like or where you came from or where your parents were. You're here now. Are you winning now? Yes or no? And we haven't.
Yeah, we're not holding anybody. I don't think either of us has ever held anybody to a different standard. We hold people to the standard of being an American or being a football coach, and you are evaluated the same way everybody else is, regardless of that. As I said, I'm not going to pretend that, you know, that racism doesn't exist in America and that there are some who may be doing it for that reason. I'm not, you're not, and I think a majority of people who are upset are not upset at race. It really boils down to the lack of a job that was tasked and not delivered. And, you know, to your earlier point about different choices, you know, I'm not a Romney supporter and never have been. And so for me, this is going to be a pretty tough election because I would like to vote for Gary Johnson from the Libertarian Party, but we will not have a, you know, it always boils down to that whole argument of, are you helping the other guy by, you know, voting for a third party?
That's a good point. And
yeah, and then it comes down to, okay, so now I get to pick the lesser of two evils, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, I heard Jesse Ventura. He was just on Coast to Coast AM talking with George Norrie. And Jesse Ventura, the former Navy SEAL, the former WWF wrestler, the former actor, he went as the independent governor of Minnesota. He won. And he has a new book out called Democrips and Rebloodlicans, the Crips and the Bloods, the red and the blue. And it's interesting because he was saying, you know, he said he's voting for Gary Johnson. He said he wishes that Ron Paul would run on another ticket where he's not a part of the Republican Party. And he could vote for him, but since he's not going to be on the ballot for another party, he's going to vote for Gary Johnson. And he said, you know, regarding the same thing you were just getting at, you know, are you throwing your vote away? Are you helping the other guy? It's like the point Jesse Ventura is making, and the point I've been making was voting for Republican or Democrat is voting for one thing. Look where we've been run into the ground over the past 100 years with a two-party system. They both have the same blood on their hands. They have both have the same results to say Democrats and Republicans, you're all responsible for this misery because it's a two-party system. And voting for that is a wasted vote, so he's going to vote Libertarian. You know, there's debate there, but I get it.
We have had third parties be elected to the presidency. We have not had only Republicans and Democrats as presidents, if you look back. And the other interesting thing is, as you know, the Democrats and Republicans have switched ideals over the years. And many of the people that claim that the Republican Party is racist, it was the Republicans that set slavery free, that passed the Emancipation Proclamation and passed all the laws that had been enacted shortly after the Civil War. So the Democrats actually were the ones that, it was the Southern Democrats were the ones that wanted to keep the slavery around. So, you know, I think there's also a misunderstanding of that, and that also shows that there's flexibility out there, that there is an opportunity for a third party to come up through the ranks. And it takes this level of frustration with, you know, the parties that hopefully people will begin to look outside of that. But I think his argument was valid. A majority of people feel like, well, I can't vote third party because then I'm just helping the other guy out. And there is, my opinion, maybe a case to be made for that, but we'll see what happens. It'll be an interesting thing, to say the least, and I think whichever, if it was Romney or Obama, we'll see a big difference in ideals, but as you alluded to, a big dime of difference in what actually gets done. So, I don't know if maybe we'll go the third-party route, just because really either of them's going to screw it up.
George Carlin famously, to paraphrase him, he said, a lot of people say, if you don't vote, you have no right to complain. He said, he said, nonsense. I don't vote, so I can complain. You're participating in the system that's providing you these results, and then you're complaining about it. I am not voting in your system, therefore I'm allowed to complain. And it's interesting because it's obviously a joke, it's obviously humor, but there is some truth there. But you're going to be in a battleground state where your vote is going to matter. Your vote will matter. In California, I don't think California is going to go for Romney. So I'm out here. I've never supported Romney.
They're going for broke.
I like that. California going for broke. And that is the case. I mean, you're looking at Stockton, California going back. What do you think about all the cities going bankrupt?
It's been really interesting. And I think San Bernardino was either had filed or was close to filing for bankruptcy the last time I looked. So yeah, there's a few major cities that were out there, and I lived in Rancho Cucamonga, not very far from there, and was in San Bernardino County. So, there's not much to be said about it. The problem is that they don't understand that the world goes through up cycles and down cycles, and when you have an up cycle, you save for a rainy day. They didn't do that. They planned to spend every dime they have, as they always do, and instead of paying down debts, they got more aggressive with more debts and just figured more income would roll in the future, and that's how you get into those situations. Well,
that's a lot of the bartender philosophy too. I mean, bartending. Everyone might remember that one night you made $400 or $600, like one night where it was just crazy. But there are a lot of nights where you make $40, and if you don't balance that out yourself, you're really setting yourself up to be 99% disappointed and in a bad mood every single day, expecting things that aren't real. And not budgeting for those rainy days. If you don't save it up, if you go and spend it all, and then you need to draw upon it when you need it, when times are slow, what do? You put your hand out and say, gimme? Or you figure it out and you learn how to budget your stuff better. It's a harsh choice we got to make here. But there's a lot of truth to personal responsibility and accountability here. And a lot of people have found themselves in tough situations through no fault of their own, whether they got sick, they got laid off, now they can't find, tough times. I get that. But we need to help those people.
Brian, one thing I'd like to leave you with is I think it's important what you pointed out is that you do have to take self-responsibility, and whether times are good or times are bad, whether it was something you did to yourself or whether it was a situation that you walked into that had no control over it, just keeping an eye on what you do, when you do it, where you do it, and learning more about your spending habits will help you maybe not get into those situations. And something as simple, your listeners can go, there's a free site that I use. It's mint.com that goes in, ties in with your bank, ties in with your smartphone to where you can kind of keep track of your budget, keep track of your money. And, there's more to do with your money besides that, and working with a financial service professional is something that you can look at doing if you've got some more complicated situations. But I think every individual, every family owes it to themselves to at least put together a budget and some sort of tracking system to kind of realize where their finances are at. And then you've got to set goals on where you want to get to. And when you review those goals on a regular basis and you look at those goals on a regular basis and you have a purpose for why you want to get to achieving those goals, the business rules sort of say you're a lot more likely to accomplish those things. And so that would be something I'd like to leave you with for now.
No, that's good. I have the website pulled up here. You said this is, I'm looking, it says it's free. So it's a free service where you just get to kind of use some software and enter all your expenses and keep track of what's going on. I'm looking at all these charts and graphs, and it's easy to lose track of what's going on when you reach the number 16 trillion. You can't even count to 16 trillion. You'll run out of breath. You'll die before you can count to 16 trillion. How can you keep track of it? So, no, that is good. I'll take a look at that site, and if the people out there want to check it out, that's mint.com. Now, that's not some company you're affiliated with, Ryan, but before we let you go, why don't you just kind of mention to people where your background is at financially, kind of which perspective you're bringing today. Obviously, as a Cleveland sports fan, that speaks for itself, but talking issues of finance and politics, like what your background is, what you work in this field.
Yeah, I am a financial service professional, and I do hold a degree in finance, and I do proclaim myself proudly to be a Buckeye and from the Cleveland area. So that is my background there, and I do belong to the Libertarian Party, and I have since 1999, I want to say. So it's been a long time. So on those three subjects, that's where my background comes in. And if any of your listeners have any follow-up questions for me, I can be found on Twitter at HomerIXY32.
HomerIXY32, HomerIXY32 at HomerIXY32. Yes, go ahead and sign up and follow Ryan. We're going to have a lot to tweet about and talk about in the next few months between the Olympics, between the Browns training camp, the Indians pennant race, the election in November. There's a lot of stuff we're going to be talking about. And Ryan, it's been a while since I've had the chance to talk to you. I know you got to run, so we will let you go and we will continue. We got to bring you back in again. I like these regular check-ins. It really is like a bar, just
absolutely.
Sit down and have a drink.
I wish we had a little more time. You can call me up next time you need me.
Sure thing. Ryan, you have a great one. Take care, buddy.
Thanks, everybody.
That was Ryan Carlson. Yeah, he's one of my favorite stories about Ryan. I don't know if you've heard me talking to Ryan before, but it was 8th grade. It was the first year I'd played football. I wanted to for a few years. My mom wouldn't let me, and finally I went out and bought a pair of cleats, and I said, I'm playing. Mom, I'm not asking you if I can play. I'm informing you that I'm going to football practice. I had to make that decision for me, and so I just said, if I wait for you to allow me, I'll never be able to do that. So, but anyway, this was 8th grade, the first year I was playing, and I just remember a lot of two-a-days, a lot of practices, and running laps, and I'd finish before Ryan. And I would just go over to the sidelines and I would grab his water jug. I don't know why. Maybe he had more ice cubes than the other guys. I don't know why I didn't have my own water, why I wasn't bringing it. I was not taking accountability and responsibility for my actions, and I was expecting other people to take care of me, which is anti-libertarian, pro-mooch. And so Ryan kept giving me crap, like, stop drinking my water. Dude, stop drinking my water. I'm like, come on, whatever. I'm going to drink that water. So I finished one day, went over, just exhausted, start chugging the water, spit out soap bubbles. He filled it with soap, and he taught me a lesson. He's like, really? You're going to keep stealing my stuff? Here, take that. And I think the next day I brought my own water bottle. And sometimes we have to learn those those uncomfortable lessons. We have to take that hard look in the mirror and go, what are you doing, Brian? Come on. Stop it. What are you doing? Get your own water. Sometimes someone has to put soap in the water. No, I don't think he needed to break my leg to prove a point. That would be stupid. So we have to gauge all these political and financial issues with a level of reasonability here, but we got to face the facts. We're all responsible for bringing our own water. It's a nice metaphor for the libertarian concept. Not really caring what religion another man or woman is, how they worship the deity, the God, the creator of this universe. However it's defined. That's not really important. It's also not important to confiscate from other people, to redistribute it how you see fit. It's a more, I don't know if it's more current, more contemporary of an idea or not. What I do know is that confiscation and then redistribution is anti-libertarian. Libertarian is figure it out. You know, like if Ryan and I, and it's funny because Ryan was the left tackle on the offensive line, and I was the right defensive end. We both were starters on an undefeated high school football team, which nobody expected. We were definitely the overachieving underdogs the entire season. Nobody expected we were going to do that. The team the year before us went to the state championship game. And then after a lot of them graduated, they looked at us and said, oh, boy, it's going to be a long year. We're like, the hell it is. We're going undefeated, too. And we did. But Ryan and I would often go up against each other. He was the left tackle, and I was the right defensive end. So in practices, you know, sometimes it was just, all right, let's walk through. Hey, you got to go real hard this play. Go. You know, because if it's a sweep or something, it doesn't work if I'm not over-pursuing. And I don't know, not to get into all the nuances. But Ryan and I have definitely... you know, we weren't competing for the same spot. We were competing to improve the team, but we definitely went up against each other one-on-one for an entire season, really. All the practices, you know, he was on the scout team for the first team offense because he didn't play defense, and I didn't really play offense. So I'd show up as the right defensive end and give them a look. But, you know, that's what libertarian is. Libertarian is just leave me alone. Just leave me alone. You want me to kick in for your roads and your bridges? Fine. I can kick in for your roads and bridges. You want me to kick in a little bit for some national defense? Well, yeah. I don't want to get invaded. That would be ridiculous. I'm not going to work that job. As a last resort, I'll work that job. You know, as the absolute last option. If nobody else is around to do it, I will protect and defend what I need to. You know, but I like having a common sense scaled back military and police department. I'll kick in for that. A little bit of research and development, all right. National health care system, no. No, I like the concept that everyone gets free care. There is no such thing as free care. There's no such thing. And while there are things that we can improve in our healthcare system, I don't like this 2,700-page bill that nobody had time to read. I don't like that. I don't want to. I'm not interested in that. No, thank you. If a car salesman tried to give me that line, tried to get me to sign that, no way. No way. I would never go back there. Hurry up, you got to sign it. Hurry up, you got to sign it. Nancy Pelosi. I can't wait to pass it so we can find out what's in it. It's those moments of unscripted beauty, those moments of unscripted glory that are so revealing. So revealing. Can't wait to pass it to find out what's in it. Wow. Really? And President Obama, he had one the other day. I'm going to grab this here. This is President Obama. You just got to listen to this. Let's hear the whole thing. Some people are saying you didn't take it in context. Oh, brother, we took it in context. Yeah, you got a business? You didn't build that. Okay. He's not only talking about not building your business on your own, which is exactly what the headline says. He's also talking about roads and bridges. You didn't build that. Right. Except you're not right. He did build that. He did, his parents did, his grandparents did, her grandparents did. Through the taxes that they paid. So that you could do a little bit of infrastructure investment, a little bit of research and development, so you could do a few of those things. We've already paid for that. Government doesn't produce anything. It confiscates. It confiscates money from the people. I haven't had a time to had the chance to vet this, so I'm going to go with this one. This one has 161,000 views. Let's see if you can hear this.
If you've been successful, you didn't get there on your own. You didn't get there on your own. I'm always struck by people who think, well, it must be because I was just so smart. There are a lot of smart people out there. It must be because I worked harder than everybody else. Let me tell you something. There are a whole bunch of hard-working people out there. If you were successful, somebody along the line gave you some help. There was a great teacher somewhere in your life. Somebody helped to create this unbelievable American system that we had that allowed you to thrive. Somebody invested in roads and bridges. If you got a business, you didn't build that. Somebody else made that happen. The internet didn't get invented on its own.
Okay. That was hard. That was difficult, everybody. My skin is crawling right now. The Obama campaign wants to say that you've taken that out of context. What? Because people are saying, if you got a business, you didn't build that. He's trying to argue that he didn't say that business owners didn't build their business. But then you listen to the full 56 seconds. That's exactly what he's saying. I'm always struck by, you know what? I'm gonna break this down line by line. I can't do this from memory, and I can't drag this out. But this is the moment that President Barack Obama decided, I don't want a second term. This quote, no, he will not be a second term president. He'll be a one term. He'll be a George Bush Sr. Now I could be wrong. I'm just prognosticating here. But this is such a damning piece of video. It's such a damning peeling back the layers of the onion to figure out who this guy really is. I mean, we gave this man one of the most important jobs in our country without almost any relevant experience. And here's what we get: an amateur. Oh, he's great at reading scripts. Because in a script, you can make sure you're delivering the dialogue. You are portraying the narrative that you want. But when you're off script, you're dancing out and you're floating in the ocean. You got waves hitting you from the left, from the right. Sharks beneath you. Rainstorm above. You just go with it. And this guy, this president, has had some very, very, very controversial teachers along the way. It's another topic for another show. If you don't know who this guy is by now, we'll break it down in this 56-second video. By the way, my name's Brian. This is the Unhappy Hour transition into Agree to Disagree. I want to thank our guests for today. Ryan Carlson, find him on Twitter. He's at HomerIXY32. Homer IXY32. I want to thank Brandon Odell for joining us on Strictly Browns. Another segment of the Unhappy Hour. Strictly Browns, getting ready for NFL season. You are watching The New American Media